Hey, that's Colin. I'm Steven. Hello, Taiji Connection. We were talking about the handshake situation, which Colin will show us now. There's one handshake, you could do the handshake that we see too. And then the other is this. And what do we do if something like that happens to us in a Tai Chi point of view? And of course, we know that there's a bunch of things when he does this that I can do that move. But that to me sort of violates the spirit of what if you're in a handshake and something happens like we've seen. And if I'm in a handshake, I'm in the midst of a societal norm, perhaps public, but certainly social. And so even if I have this kind of power move happening, the answer for me isn't to fajin a G into him, because then we're no longer shaking hands and purportedly being buddies or friends or allies or something like that. So to me the question is, how do I sense what's happening here, and then if he continues what's happening here, and address that in a subtle way such that whoever's observing sees two people shaking hands. And you may even just think we're just shaking hands, but very likely he knows that I just took his queen, and everybody else thinks the chess game hasn't started. So very frequently in something like this, where we use these subtle Tai Chi energetics, you know what happened, I know what happened, nobody around us knows. And a bunch of us have self-defense kind of stories like this, where you've done a very small little Tai Chi or Qigong kind of a Xingyi, Baguazhang kind of deal, and nobody else knows what you did, but a martial artist watching, like, oh, I see what you did there, buddy. So as he does this, I know that I could definitely do a needle at sea bottom situation. You know, that would be fun, but it violates what I think is interesting about this question. So what we noticed is that the first thing that we see happening in this meme, in this new sort of story for people, is that, I'll be your role, is that there's a motion to access the tiger's mouth, the ridge hand, the index finger line, and lead the watch face of the Shake-I, or the Uke Shake-I, towards my center, my heart maybe, right? So there's this in the handshake, which is normally like this, there's this, right? So if we exaggerate a lot, it's like this. But if you notice here, I have a broken wrist, so does he. But what we noticed in watching these, and I think Colin noticed, not me, is that it's not simply this, where the two of us are making this yin-yang center line, but that I'm relatively straight. I'm breaking you, causing you to come up, and in fact, in order to do that, one of the weaknesses that we identified is that I'm coming away from my own center in a way that it's harder for me to deliver power. But this is a pulling kind of a move, as we see generally afterwards is something like this. I don't know if I threw a bunch of So the first thing that we noticed is that he's kind of bringing this tiger's mouth, this Huko energy towards his center line, and causing that to happen. And we notice that that seems to happen in every case when, I think it's the intention every time, and it happens very often. And if that happens, the second move is to what we were referring to as chamber. So he chambers this, which is more or less palm up, and then, you know, often vigorous shaking, or maybe there's a bunch of squeezing or whatever. So again, if this is the handshake, I know that we can do things with the free hand, and we can even disguise those where I can do a lock, or just a little heavy check, or what we've seen, something like this. So we can see a bunch of different things through the other hand, and that's reasonable in a formal setting. But I'm more interested in what can we do here. So do it to me. Do the whole thing to me. So let's do it again. What can I do here? That's a small Tai Chi thing. So we came up with a couple different things, which I'll just kind of review briefly. One is when he does this, I'm going to do Lu energy. right? So as he does this, I just do a very small loo. And so Colin, if you could tell us what happens to you when it works, and then when I do loo, what's the difference? What can you do now? What can you not do? What changed?
So my balance is forward on my front leg, but that's sort of dependent on me having a leg forward. But I'm very much in my arm. I'm detached from the rest of myself, mostly my bicep. So I can't pull. I can't really push him without being awkward.
Good, that's fine, that's fine. So do the power move. Good. Yeah, sure, good. So here, let's do it again. Good. So that's just the little loo, which in the form might be, you know, much bigger kind of emotion, but I'm used to these energies, I can do them small. So again, to do this, when he goes to do it, go ahead, that's my loo. I'm not gonna do it enough where he actually pops out of his stance or stumbles forward or shoulder striking, because again, I'm trying to actually accept the setting that I find myself in, is that you're shaking hands with somebody. The next one that I did as he goes to do this is a golden cock stance on one leg. So let's do that again. Finish it on me. So sorry, we'll start. Good. So just so we're reviewing, are you happy with that?
Sure.
All right. Again. Right. So in my mind, I'm doing this. I'm just obviously not going to finish this. I'm not going to come up here and actually, all of a sudden I have my frogs on and everything. I'm not doing that. I'm just having this energy, which I know from the form connects through my center line, through the earth and the rear leg and so forth. And so as I'm doing this, I have a little, I'm not going to teach you how to do golden cock stands on one leg, but I'm sinking into the rear leg, I'm settled, I have my sung, I'm breathing. Very, very simple, right? Mm-hmm. So that's all I'm doing. So if he grabs, does the tiger's mouth and shakes, good, there you go. Let's do that again. I can still be shaking or getting shaken, and if he pulls me in at the same time, right, it doesn't really work, right? Yep. Okay, I'm just checking my notes. Oh, and two more. We had, so let's do it again so you can get me in it. Right, and we do it again. So all I've done there is on, right? So of course that might very much look like this, but I'm having this energy. And what I noticed doing on is I don't even get to finish it. I just start the on, so it feels a little bit like Lou, and it doesn't seem to work. We can hear what Colin says about it. In fact, let's go back to Golden Cock. So as he does this, what do you feel different when I do that?
So that brings my weight forward onto my toes mostly. Okay,
so if we do this again and you go to put it on me, I can do it small so you don't have, this in a formal situation. So let's go back to the on, and what do you feel there?
There's less of a weight shift, but it feels like I need to bow in order to keep my balance. I feel lower. And if I try to engage the handshake more, it feels like I'm just crunching myself.
You're pulling yourself, your hand's not coming to your body's coming to your hands. All right, good, so that's pretty cool. So, and the last one I did, which is maybe a tougher one, so if you're a beginner, stop there. As he does this, what I thought would be interesting is, what if I just do, really commit to pong? That's it. Well, that's not it, there's two parts to it. But when let's see it succeed, that way they're comparing every time. Really do it vigorously. Good. Now you'll notice that, can I do it to you vigorously? Sure. So you'll notice that, right, it looks more like this on the videos and memes that we've seen, but as with most things, we practice them slow and quietly and attentively. So you might look at this and say, well, that wouldn't work because Colin's not really yanking me around. Well, I want to do this 30 times and not get hurt. So we're in a dojang. So here we go. The last one, I have just a real palm, like a sharpened yi, as well as, let's do it again, borrowing jin. So he puts it up, you're going to succeed here, you do it to me, and then I do my Pung and Barojin, and maybe you can tell us what your experience there is.
It just feels like I'm shaking a rock. Like I'm trying to manipulate him and I've got nothing.
Right.
So there's fine. There I'm fine. No, I'm fighting.
Good. And of course, being Taiji, I'm relaxed through here and all that. Good, thanks. Thank you, Taiji Connection. Thank you, Lester. Thank you, Chris. Much love.